In this video, I'll be talking about your fall and winter weather outlook for your 2022 season, as well as your tropical weather update. Welcome back, everybody. Good Saturday morning. Right now, you are looking at your Nino index. This is actually a La Nina, and the negative values here that you see on the screen, that is actually a La Nina. We're actually in a moderate La Nina right now, and it's actually started to strengthen over the last couple of days. You can see the downward trend here all the way from the middle of July to now, and actually the last couple of days has started to strengthen yet again. And it does look to approach strong La Nina status as we move into September and October. So looking at this here, looking at the Equatorial Pacific, we have the cooler water anomalies across those areas west here of the South America coast, all the way across the Equatorial Pacific. That does signal La Nina. Let's look at this a little bit further here. You can see the 7-day change here, these bursts of some cooler waters across the Equatorial Pacific, and does signal here a couple of stronger bursts well west of the Central Americas, well west here of the South America area as well. This does signify a strengthening La Nina here with these stronger bursts of waters, and that is kind of what we're watching for here as we move forward. So kind of looking at this through your fall months, through the next couple of months here during the rest of August into September and October here of 2022. This is your seasonal temperature outlook here from the Climate Prediction Center. Does favor much of the country here, probably about 80% of the country, seeing at least slightly to even much above normal temperature-wise across especially the Northeast and the southwestern United States into Texas. A lot of these areas can expect the increasing heat all the way through the fall. And looking at the precipitation anomaly here during the rest of August, September, and October of 2022, it looks like above normal precipitation is favored across much of the Northeast, getting through the East Coast and the Southeast, whereas much of the middle and western part of the country here will have at least equal chances of some showers and storms, or even, some below normal precipitation here as we kind of move through the next couple of months as well. This also has to do with the hurricane season, I do believe, across the East Coast, so we'll continue to watch this here as we get through September and October here moving forward. So let's kind of look at this for September here and what this really means for us. This is the CFS. This is a climate forecasting model. This does a very good job at kind of depicting the temperature anomalies as well as the precipitation anomalies here as well moving forward. So this is September 2022. It does show that above normal temperature regime across much of especially the western United States and really just the entire contiguous United States here as a whole for September. What this also means is that we are going to have some active weather as well. When you have above normal temperatures and you have above normal precipitation, there could be a little bit of an increase in some severe weather potential across the Ohio Valley, parts of the Great Lakes, and maybe even the northern plains here from time to time during September. We also have to watch the Gulf Coast, guys. We have a well above normal precipitation anomalies across the northern Gulf Coast and across portions of Florida there. That does increase the potential for tropical landfalling systems across the Gulf Coast and even into Florida as we move sometime here into September. We will continue, however, to see the drier than normal conditions, continuing across much of the Great Plains from South Dakota all the way down south through Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and into North Texas. I think the drought will increase in intensity as we head here through September. Looking here on October, much of the same, and actually the temperature anomalies actually get a little bit more extreme into October. I definitely think we're going to see much above normal temperatures across many areas across the United States, especially along and west of the Mississippi River, across the Rockies, across the Great Plains, much of the western United States. It'll still be above normal in the Northeast and the East Coast here and across the Ohio and Tennessee valleys, but I definitely think the strongest warming will still be along and west of the Mississippi River through October. Looking at the precipitation anomalies for October, yeah, you can continue to see that drier than normal, anomaly showing up here across much of the Rockies, getting down here into portions of the South Central Plains, maybe into portions there of the Illinois Valley and Western Ohio Valley as well. Across the upper Midwest, we could have near normal to slightly above normal precipitation, and it really does look pretty active here as we get into October across the Pacific Northwest from Seattle down toward the Portland area, down toward portions there of Idaho, as well as portions of interior New England from Maine into portions of New Hampshire, Vermont, eastern portions of New York State. Yeah, we could see some above normal precipitation there as well. And across the Gulf Coast and the East Coast, we definitely have to watch for a potential big tropical system, I think, as we get towards the middle and late portion of October. I really do think areas around Florida, some parts of the Gulf Coast, and especially right along the East Coast there near the Carolinas really need to be on high alert as we move through October, because the trends do show the potential for a strong system potentially making landfall sometime in October. Looking here overall as we get toward the wintertime months here and what this means for the winter with the La Nina, typical La Nina pattern here in the winter, you can see the cooler anomalies with that, polar jet here across portions of the southwestern Canadian prairies. You have the wetter conditions across the Pacific Northwest from Seattle down toward Portland into northern California. And again, we see that drier than normal, anomalies showing up across portions here of the southern United States here, all across the Gulf Coast and into portions of New Mexico, Arizona, Southern California. And again, wetter conditions here across portions of the Ohio Valley into the southern Great Lakes as well, which could mean more snowstorms and potentially more ice storms as we head towards the winter months. So let's kind of break this down a little more here. The temperature patterns averaged here with all of the La Nina winters here since 1950 to now, current time, and you can see a lot of the La Ninas actually do produce warmer than normal conditions across the southern United States and colder than normal conditions across much of the northern plains in the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes from 1950 to now, and that's what we've seen here kind of averaged out across all the La Nina winters since then. Also here looking at the precipitation anomalies averaged out from all of the La Nina winters since 1950 to now as well. We do see some above normal areas here across the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, as well as a lot of areas across the Pacific Northwest here above normal precipitation with the La Nina there as well. And again, as you can see across the southeast, the Gulf Coast, back toward the southwestern United States into California, below normal to even well below normal precipitation here during these La Nina winters as well. Increasing that drought is sustaining that drought as we kind of continue through the winter months potentially as well. So breaking this down again a little bit further here, comparing the La Nina temperature patterns here, the earliest La Ninas here dating all the way back here to the 1900s and the 1980s and stuff like that. You can see a lot of cooler anomalies across the upper Midwest, the northern Rockies, the northern plains here, and portions of the Great Lakes and New England. That is with the polar vortexes. They like to come down from the Canada here towards the northern U.S., and you see a lot of these colder than normal temperatures, the temperatures that are 30, 40, 50 degrees below zero sometimes with those wind chills. And then across the southeast and southern plains, you can definitely see those above normal temperature anomalies with these La Nina winters here dating all the way back to the 1900s. But of recent, guys, there has been a growing trend that these La Ninas aren't as potent, climatologically as they once were. And proof of that is here. You don't really see those dark blue shades here on the last 10 latest La Nina winters here, dating back to 2010, 2012. We really just haven't seen that. And we've seen actually a lot of these La Ninas actually favoring warmer than conditions spreading up into the northeast here as well. And that could be due to a couple of different factors here, not really relating directly to La Nina. That could be due to the ice melt across portions of the Arctic Circle. That could be due to a lot of other things, but it really does have to come down to some of the La Ninas actually aren't as potent as they used to be. And that is a growing trend that we have seen warmer and warmer winters here as we've been moving forward, at least the last 10 here La Ninas that we've had. So that is something that we've been watching here as well. So let's kind of look at this with the CFS model, the Climate Forecasting Systems model here for November. Again, it does show that growing trend that we have warmer than normal conditions across much of the western United States, the central United States here across portions of southern and southeastern Canada, warmer than normal conditions for November. And looking at this here with the precipitation perspective, drier than normal conditions are favored. This is a typical La Nina pattern as we get into portions of the southeastern United States, from the portions of the Ohio Valley down through much of the the Tennessee Valley, the southeast, into Texas here, and much of the southwestern desert areas into the Four Corners. Drier than normal conditions there with an active, that polar jet will be very active across portions of southern Canada, the northern plains, the Pacific Northwest, and the upper Midwest here at times as well. I do think as we get into late November, we might have to watch out for an early season snowstorm potentially across portions of New England here from the I-95 corridor up towards portions of Maine, around the Caribou area, around Augusta, Maine, and potentially down towards Boston here as we get towards that November timeframe. And again, I do think the tropics will still be alive and prevalent across portions of the Caribbean, the Western Atlantic, and portions of the Southern Gulf as we move into portions, especially early to mid-November, with the hurricane season starting to quiet down a little bit towards late November and getting in towards December. And again, let's look at December 2022. The Climate Forecasting Systems model does show a trend of extremely above normal temperature-wise across most of the United States here, especially across the central and southern plains into the Missouri Valley here for December 2022. Looking at this with the precipitation here, it looks extremely dry across the southeast here in the East Coast, especially along the Gulf Coast states here from coastal Texas and Louisiana eastward towards northwest Florida. Very active pattern across portions here of the Central Plains, getting up into the the middle and upper Mississippi Valley here, the Ohio Valley, and very active across the northern Rockies here into the Pacific Northwest. Those ski resorts are definitely going to be opening up in a big way as we get into December here as well, with lots of snowpack up into the higher elevations in the Rockies. We could have a couple stronger snowstorms across portions here of the western Great Lakes. We'll have to watch towards Chicago, towards Milwaukee, Green Bay, back toward Des Moines, Iowa. Some of these areas could have above normal snowfall potentially, or even rainfall with those above normal temperatures as we get towards December. We'll have to kind of watch that time frame as we get further. Now we get into 2023 here later into the winter months, and we see that above normal temperatures kind of sliding farther to the east across much of the southern United States and into the Ohio Valley, parts of the southern Great Lakes, and extending back to Texas. Meanwhile, we do have cooler than normal temperatures across portions of the Pacific Northwest into southern and southwestern Canada with that polar jet. And this does kind of signal the potential of a growing potential of, that polar vortex starting to organize across the southwestern Canada area and starting to move southeast into January potentially. And we are seeing a very active January. The good news here is that look at the entire United States for the most part, except for the extreme southeast and in Florida, looks above normal, at least here with the precipitation for the most part. Very big signal for above normal precipitation from East Texas all the way up through much of the Mid-South, the Ohio and Tennessee River valleys, even across the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, back across much of the western United States. Again, those ski resorts are going to be in high supply of snowfall as we get towards January, and even into northern California, into these drought-stricken areas. Some good news potentially as we get towards January 2023 of above normal precipitation there as well. Now, with this taken here into account that we have above normal temperatures here into January, there could be an area, I do think, across the Mid-South here and the Tennessee Valley. We have to watch out for the potential of a severe weather outbreak as we get into January sometime. We could have kind of a warm side to the storm and then a cold side to the storm. So areas up into the upper Midwest might see some heavy snowfall, while areas across portions here of the middle of the country from the Tennessee Valley, Ohio Valley, can into that transition zone with more ice storms, and then that severe weather side to that we'll have to watch across the southern portions of the United States towards Texas as we get into January 2023. Moving ahead here to the last month of February, it does look like that polar vortex really starts to gain strength as we get into southern Canada, into the northern plains, into the upper Midwest here and upper Great Lakes as we get into February 2023. Still have slightly above normal temperature-wise across the eastern half of the country and southern United States as well towards February. We also have a very big signal for above normal precipitation across East Texas, much of the Mid-South, getting into the Ohio Valley and Tennessee Valley. Very consistent with La Nina winters, and it does look like, again, another setup for heavy snowfall into the Great Lakes and the upper Midwest, and a transition zone with some ice storm potential in the middle there across the Ohio Valley and parts of the Missouri Valley as well, and then kind of a severe weather side potentially setting up here across the Tennessee Valley and much of the deep south into East Texas as we get into February here as well. So that will be something to watch here. And again, February does look interesting as well across the East Coast. They're showing some anomalies just off the coast here, the Carolinas, just off the coast here of the Northeast. This could bring the potential for some major nor'easter type of snow events here, potentially for the I-95 corridor, potentially up towards Cape Cod, up toward the Boston area. We'll definitely have to watch this here into February as well, as I do think the nor'easters will actually be more extreme this year, due to the fact that we'll have a strong La Nina this winter. It does look like as we get toward late winter, January, February into March of 2023, it does look like the La Nina will start to weaken, but definitely watching the potential for some major events with severe weather outbreaks, ice storms, big snowstorms, possibly some blizzards into the I-95 corridor. I think February is going to be very busy as well. Shifting your attention here to the tropics again, we have some active weather in the eastern Pacific here. We have an area of interest, a 70% chance of development the next 2 to 5 days across portions just west of the Mexico coast and just south of Baja of California. The small area here, this could develop into a tropical depression briefly here through the next couple of days. We'll continue to watch that. that. You can see some organizing convection and thunderstorm activity bubbling up across the eastern Pacific basin. This will continue to the west-northwest. We'll continue to watch this. This could develop into a tropical depression. Again, marginally supportive for tropical weather here as it kind of moves to the northwest, but it will quickly run into some cooler waters and more wind shear. So whatever does develop will be pretty brief and probably pretty, light in intensity, probably more of a tropical depression than anything else. So we'll continue to watch that. Again, a 70% chance of development in the next 2 to 5 days. Interestingly, again, we have another area of interest across the northwestern Gulf of Mexico near the Texas coast here from Corpus Christi up toward Houston. This area has a lower chance here of development. We'll continue to watch it, about a 10 to 20% chance of development in the next 2 to 5 days. You can see some low-level spin across portions of the northwestern Gulf of Mexico, some convection starting to surround that a little bit. Again, not a closed low, but we'll continue to watch this. This could bring more of a heavy rainfall potential across these areas into South Texas as we move forward here, especially into next week. And these are the forecast models here. This is the European forecast model showing some widespread heavy rainfall across southern Texas here, and maybe getting up towards south central Texas with some rainfall, but the heaviest looks to occur near Corpus Christi on south towards the areas into southern Texas toward the Mexico border. Some of these areas could be seeing widespread 2 to 5, maybe 6 inches of rain as we get into that next week time frame. So we'll definitely watch this. This goes all the way here through the Wednesday night into Thursday morning time frame, so we'll continue to watch that. And then here, same thing, the GFS forecast model, very similar, brings the heavier rainfall just slightly farther north towards south central Texas, but again, it does show that heavier footprint across southern Texas largely as we kind of move towards the Mexican border into South Texas there as we get towards that same time frame. Again, 2 to 5 inches of rain, maybe some areas that could get up to around 6 or 7 inches, definitely possible here within the GFS model if it does verify. You can see that here with the the PWAT values. This is the precipitable water anomalies. You can see a lot of green here showing up across portions of the northwestern Gulf, getting in toward the Texas coast, especially to southern Texas. You can definitely see the precipitable water values are going to be growing here, where you see the purples and the pinks. That is actually precipitable water values over 2.5 inches here, so definitely seeing that potentially a decent chance for some significant rainfall across southern Texas here. Whether or not this becomes a depression here, we'll continue to watch that. It looks like a very big tropical rainmaker across southern Texas, so we'll continue to watch this in the next few days. Thank you guys for watching. Definitely appreciate you guys joining here this morning. Remember to like my video down below by giving it a thumbs up. Leave any comments, questions, concerns below. Definitely will appreciate that, and we'll look those over here later on today and get back to you on that. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, guys. Our new goal is 1,000 subscribers. Definitely press the subscribe button down below. Much appreciated. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.